Alright guys, it's day something. I've lost count honestly, but we've made some progress in the car. So if you look, we are completely mounted. Dropping the subframe worked very, very well. So let's get a shot underneath the car. I don't know how well I'll be able to do it, but you know, we'll give it a try. Okay. Alright. So yeah, maybe not. You guys can see that in there. Okay, so that point right there, is what was making our life just a little bit harder. But that's the way it's supposed to look. So if you go and look at Mike or Alan's car on Renlist, their cars have that same amount of spacing between the oil pan and the crossmember. But she mounted up pretty good. She looks good. She looks amazing. I'm really glad that I chose the zinc plated oil pan because it looks so good. So good. Yeah, you may be able to see that view from over there. Here's another power steering line that I need to fix. Why do you have stuff all over your lens? It's a little better. Okay, yeah. But, yeah. This is how it fits. This is how it's supposed to fit. Get this line out of the way. Looks really good. All this looks good. And bell housing is mounted to the torque tube very, very well. No issues there. Come on, focus. Piece of crap. No issues there. No issues there. Nice and flush, as it should. Everything else is nice and tight. Remember, I had to undo these two, and I had to undo I believe it was like that one, and then the other one, the other side. So yeah, engine is mounted permanently. So next thing we did was we ran some power steering lines. So as you can see up here, this is the pulley for the power steering pump. You can see that fitting right there. That is the high pressure fitting. So we ran that down and around to the steering rack. Let's see if I can get it to focus. It's really dark. I'm sorry, guys. But hey, at least I don't have creative filters on this time. That was funny. It wasn't actually funny. It's kind of embarrassing, but it's okay. Okay, yep, so that's where I have it mounted on the power steering rack, and that top port is where I'm going to mount another one of those blue 10mm banjo to 6AN, and then I'm going to run a line all the way over here to where this thing is right here. I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to mount probably a flare fitting, and then I'll have an adapter in whatever that flare fitting comes in to go to 6AN, and then I'll mate the two because that's what goes to the power steering cooler lines that are over here. Those guys are right there. It's kind of dark because it's underneath the fender, but they're there. Okay, if your camera's not going to cooperate. Yep, so those are the power steering cooler lines. It's literally just a bunch of hard lines arranged in a circle, or oval pattern, rather. But yep, so then we got the return from the pump to the reservoir, and the return from the reservoir goes, I think, to the cooler. So it goes pressure from the pump, draws fluid from this way, from the suction port right there, draws it from the reservoir. Reservoir draws it from the cooler. The cooler gets it from, I believe, the return on the steering rack or something like that. But next thing we did was we made a mounting bracket for our oil cooler. So I'll get out from underneath the car so you guys can see it up front. That's what it looks like. It's pretty cool. Looks like my car has a buck tooth. That's okay. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it looks good. Hopefully it gets a lot of air when I'm driving. But essentially what I did was I took and I made these brackets out of like 1/8 inch steel. Cut them all up. Basically, it's basically trash that I found outside, and I made some brackets with them, and they go up like that and mount to the bottom of the cooler. And I just kind of welded them right to the radiator support bracket. That should work. I mean, it's pretty solid. Well, I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. You know, it's on there. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna freaking stretch tonight because my body is just destroyed from working on this godforsaken car. Yeah. Next thing I'm gonna do is tomorrow I'm gonna bring my vise outside and we are going to get these fittings all made up so that we can run these from the cooler to the oil cooler sandwich plate right here. So then we'll be able to get this all tightened down and I'll be able to get a oil filter and that'll be all done with that section of the build. Oh, another thing I did, whoops, not sure what just dropped, but oh well, I'm sure I'll find it. I made a bracket for my fuel pressure regulator. So the only reason I didn't mount it on the firewall was because, well, obviously my firewall's pretty busy as is, with a brake booster and a clutch and all the wiring harnesses and, you know, throttle cable, and, you know, I'm not going to mount it back there obviously because it's just going to get destroyed. And then here, the reason I didn't mount it here is because of that. So one thing that really kind of irks me about a lot of car builds is a lot of people tend to mount their fuel pressure regulators and everything fuel related, sometimes things that are fuel related, near things that get hot. They mount them near things that get very hot. And personally, I don't think that's a good idea. You know, you're free to do whatever you want with your car. It's, you know, it's your car, it's your decision. It's your choice to do what you feel is right and safe with your components. And, you know, if it's just a race car and, you know, you don't care about, you know, it catching on fire or exploding, and you can just kind of, you know, pull it off to the side of the track and let it burn. But this is my baby. This is something that I want to take on road trips and show off to people, and basically work it and daily drive it. So my decision to put the fuel pressure regulator and run the lines on the opposite side of the exhaust side of the engine is therefore justified in my mind. I would rather mount fuel related and anything really combustible away as far as possible away from anything that's going to get hot. I mean, that's just my decision. You know, you can do whatever you want to your car. That's, you know, it's your car. That's the whole point of it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, that's my thought process. I really didn't think too hard about it. I looked at the firewall and I said, well, there's not much room there. Plus, that gets hot, and if this thing starts spewing gas all over the place, But yeah, that's pretty much it. So tomorrow, as I said before, I think we're gonna finish our oil cooler lines, and then we will probably run the vapor vacuum lines from the head valve cover to the catch can, and yeah, figure it out. Maybe we'll try to weld some aluminum. That's another thing we're gonna try to do tomorrow. I got some aluminum. I went to the scrapyard today. Holy crap. I know people are gonna call me a junkie or whatever, but as an engineer and somebody with a creative mind, going to the scrapyard is like going to a candy store. I mean, it may look like trash to you guys, but this stuff, there's endless possibilities with what I can do with this. Plus I got some welding rod. Really glad to have this thing out. What I plan on doing is I'm going to take this cam tower off, this thing that says Porsche on it, and I'm going to hang it either like right there or, you know, like right there or somewhere. I'm not sure where yet, but eventually when I get a garage, I'm going to have a whole tribute to like Porsche and the car itself, because it was a big part of my life when I bought it, and I'd really rather not throw that away because it looks cool, and B, it's a part of the car. So you know, whatever I do with the engine now, we'll see. But yeah, that's it for today. Jeez, that light's bright. Wow. I wonder if they'll look back in this time and then use this period as a reference of all the really weird haircuts that people have gotten because they can't go to hairdressers during COVID-19. It might be interesting. You may be able to see me behind me. That's not the only change that's happened in this workshop. You know, we got the old 4-cylinder 944 engine onto the stand. So what we're going to do with that is eventually probably going to take the head off and see how bad the valves are. Probably just going to turn it into a table, to be honest. Kind of a neat experiment. Kind of see what went wrong. I also got some aluminum sheet metal. I'm going to I already have tried welding with that. To be quite honest, welding aluminum is kind of terrifying. The AC current, the frequency of the alternating current was a lot louder than I thought it was going to be. But, you know, I think we did okay for the first time welding aluminum. You know, the entire piece of metal kind of warped because this was flat, so now it's kind of all wonky. The back side's kind of I don't know how well you can see that. I'm not too sure on how I should be using the frequency and cleaning action together. I tried a lot of different combinations. I tried both low, both high, and then alternating low, high, high, low. You know, I think it's probably just something I'm going to have to get used to. That freaking mosquitoes around now. Today is May 21st in South China, Maine, and the mosquitoes are hungry. So, we have lots of bug bites. But that's not the only thing that we've been doing in the shop, and that's not the only thing that's changed. If you look behind me, we got a new tool. So this thing's pretty awesome. This is a 44-inch US General toolbox, and it has quite a bit of storage. I plan on putting all my, well, not here, but in this drawer I plan on putting all my sockets, and then whatever's left over I'll put in that one. This one I've got just general stuff, screwdrivers. This one I've got all my specialty wrenches and pliers and crimpers and whatnot. And here I've got my angle grinder, goes in here, along with the ratchet strap and the argon cap. Down here I've got all my AN fittings and hoses, my welding supplies, more welding supplies, random tools. I eventually plan on throwing these out because these are trash. Guys, if you're ever looking for a decent set of taps and dies, don't get the ones on Amazon, they're trash. These ones are like cast iron, and I mean, I'll pull one out for you right now just to show you how trash these things are. I mean, if you've ever done any machining in your life, or if you've ever even looked at a tap here, I've got good taps here and I've got shitty taps, and I'll show you the difference. So these ones, I thought they were kind of a deal, and I should have seen this coming. I mean, the kit was like 40 bucks on Amazon, so what are you gonna do? If you look at this, this is at least a halfway decent tap that you would use to clean out threads and a hole. And you can see, I'll actually turn you guys around. You can tell that the threads are actually halfway decent. I mean, this one's a little old, it's kind of rusty, but the threads actually, you can see on this one too, I mean, it is rusty as well, but it actually holds its shape, and it looks like it can be actually used. And I mean, these aren't, you know, quality machining taps, and, you know, eventually I'll have a really nice set of high-speed steel taps and dies, but these ones, look at the way the threads are cut, and then look at the way the tips on the threads from where they cut the relief on. I mean, you can just tell, like, these are not quality taps. You know, look how much sharper the corners are on the threads on this tap versus like this one. And you can even tell it even more on the dies. Like, either they were really well used, which they shouldn't have been, or these are just not very good quality. Yeah, you can see it right there. I mean, they're basically junk. You can't even use these because any thread you try to fix with these is just not going to end well. So I may eventually just throw these in the trash because they're just useless. But I'm getting eaten by mosquitoes already. Jesus. Yeah, so we got this toolbox. It's awesome. I love it. The only bad thing about it is I couldn't fit it in my 4Runner, so I had to get a trailer so I could bring it back to the house. So I had to move the 944 out and then back in. So I got the car back into the container today, garage container. Got it back on the ramps. It's a little bit further out from the wall on this side, and it's a little bit closer on this side than it was, but that just means I can get out easier if I need to. But right now what we're doing is we're still cutting the oil cooler lines to the sandwich plate. I've got one of them going right now. Oh, and I fixed my vise too. When I designed this vise for one of my classes in college, I used what's called like a plug, and it was a press fit, which wasn't the best decision. And you can kind of see what it was. Well, you can kind of yeah, you can see what it was on the bottom right here. So it was starting to back out of the movable block. So I just ran a bead right around the top. So we're gonna finish up this. Probably get it hooked up to the cooler. I'm not sure what I'm going to do if I get an intercooler though. I do plan on turbocharging this car eventually. The only thing that's holding me back from buying components right now is it's an NA car and the transmissions aren't known to be super strong, especially when you throw boost at them. So I'm thinking I may boost it anyways, because spoolie boy stuff, and then basically just keep it under 300 horsepower. The stock NA transmissions aren't known to live very long past 300, even if you keep the launches fairly easy, and I kind of want to be able to beat on this car. So I'm thinking I may boost it up to around 280, 275. And I mean, it's a light car anyways, it's not a massive four-door saloon, so you can get away with quite a bit. I mean, heck, even with that engine, I was able to do some pretty hard launches, and I mean, she goes when you want her to go. So I'm thinking 250, 275, probably 6 or 8 pounds of boost on a fairly small turbocharger, and running the wastegate right to the exhaust and sticking with a 2.5 inch exhaust should restrict the flow quite a bit, which means the power will be restricted, which is what I want for now until I can get a nice transmission. Jeez, I never thought I would have built a car to go slow. But I mean, if you think about it, speed and agility in a car is all about how you drive, not the horsepower. It's the motion of the ocean, not the size of the waves. Remember that. Okay, so going back to the toolbox. Jeez, I know we're kind of on a tangent there. specialty tools. I got my flare kit and my pipe cutter, my crappy dies and taps. Spare parts, I've got some lights that are going to go in the tail lights. Those are extras, and just, you know, random banjo and spare parts that I have. This is my clutch alignment tool. I actually 3D printed this to align the clutch and the pilot bearing in the 5-cylinder swap. And I'm just, you know, some RTV silicone that I have left over. Allen wrenches and stuff. And then here are my nice tools. I've got a set of metric and SAE Allen bits, and I have 2 sets of cheesehead / Torx / triple square sockets. One because I thought I lost one set, so I bought another one. So, you know, it's always good to have 2 sets. And then I've got my Torx bits here and my spare triple squares right there, and a spare Torx. These are just ones that I bought before I had these sets. So they're just kind of strays and extras. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, I'll give you guys kind of a size comparison. It's a fairly big toolbox. I did not expect this toolbox to be that big when I bought it. I expected it to just kind of, you know, be like a mechanic's tool chest kind of size. So I'm 6'4". I'm kind of crouching down here. I mean, I've got a pretty good wingspan, and so yeah, that's that. Another thing I got in the mail is this. This is my exhaust tubing set that I'm going to use to make the downpipe. So I also have somewhere around here, where did I put them? Oh yeah, we bought some titanium exhaust head studs. We may put these in tonight, I'm not sure. That's going to go in conjunction with this Spa turbo manifold. And I'm probably going to make a block off plate at some point. We got this T3 to 2.5 inch V-band adapter. We got the V-band clamps and flanges inside. So I'm going to use the flanges inside to go on one end of some part of that to that, and then I'll go from that to this thing, the mid pipe with the cat. So I need to clean this up though, because when I was cutting this off, because I got frustrated, I kind of cut through it. So yeah, I'll probably run a bead on that and then fix it up, clean it up a little bit. May clean up that hanger. Man, the hangers on this thing are not in good shape. I mean, they are pretty rusted out. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. Another thing I'm not sure what I'm going to do about is this part right here. I mean, this flange has seen better days. It is not doing too well. But that's probably why Ben and I were getting kind of tired, and I tripped from Maine to Boston when we first bought this thing, because that is just a recipe for an exhaust leak. So yeah, still not sure what fittings I'm going to get for my AC build, but I think tonight I'm going to take these lines in, get some measurements, and then order some connectors and a crimp tool, spend more money, etc. Oh, we also got the thermostat installed and the coolant tube. I'm not sure if this is the right way to kit it on. There's 2 ways you can put it on. There's either this way, or you can have this tube kind of flipped up around. And that clears the alternator just fine, but I'm not sure. I may just message Mike and see what he says. But yeah, I'm gonna get the coolant tubes on, and then we'll maybe think about getting the vacuum system hooked up. I may do some of this tomorrow because I'm just getting eaten by bugs. Probably gonna finish up that tube inside. Well, probably gonna finish it up here and then go inside, because it's been a long day, guys. You know? Also, if anybody knows how tight these AN fittings are really supposed to get. I mean, I really cranked down on this thing, and there's still, I can fit like my fingernail in there a little bit, but I think it's pretty well tight. Yeah, I know, they're all marred up, but you know what? No one's gonna see that. It's gonna be inside the engine bay and covered up by a beautiful intake manifold, which I'm still waiting for. Sorry, Mike. Yeah, I mean, it'll get done when it gets done. I'm in no real rush. You know, I'm just happy the new engine's in. Happy to get to wrench on this thing again. Jeez. But, yeah. Everything's holding up nicely because it hasn't ran and it's just sitting here. So, we're gonna get going on this, and then, oh, I built a trash bag holder out of trash. I used, it's actually removable too. I made little slots on the end, welded those in place, so they just kind of fit right on the table and slide into place. Yeah, this will be a good test of my welds, and how much weight it can hold, or how much weight the bag can hold when held up to sharp metal edges. But yeah, I didn't have a trash can in here, so I just made one out of trash. Still got, whoops, a little bit of room if I place things correctly. A little bit of room for stuff. I also still need to make a block off plate for where I cut a hole in the firewall. Not super proud of that, but you know what? It had to be done because otherwise she would not fit. But we are just going to rivet a plate in place so that stuff doesn't come flying into the cab. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dynamite it. I've got some wicked thick red dynamite on my Amazon cart, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to buy it or not, because COVID has everyone in a friggin' lockup of a mess of financial despair, so I think I'll be fine. I think I'm gonna get it. So I'm gonna get some red, it's like wicked thick 150 mil foam dynamite padding for insulating hot stuff. So I'm gonna put that all over the inside of the firewall inside the cab. And then gonna dynamite probably the doors and maybe the hatch trunk area. Maybe. I gotta look and see. I know there are people who have done this before, who have dynamited their cars. So I may do some research and figure out how much dynamite I actually need. But I mean, in all reality, any amount of dynamite is going to help, especially with this car, because it was very loud road-wise. Get out of here, mosquitoes. Alright, we're going to finish this up and then we're going to probably skip to tomorrow. So, see you tomorrow.